Hello and welcome to our tutorial. So this is going to have kind of two parts to it. We're going to make a very quick sort of graphic head-up display sort of component, and I'm going to put a help bar on that for our player character and a timer in our game. So let's start here in Blender. I'm going to delete my default cube, and let's turn this on here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take the camera, Alt or Alt G, and move it up 3 on the Z axis. I'm going to take the camera and just very quickly jump into orthographic mode, and then when we look through the camera, this is what we'll see. By default here, the camera is set to 1920 by 1080, which is HD, which is the same resolution as our game that we've decided to use in our game. So these, whatever I render out here, will fit perfectly on top of what I make in Unity. So all I want here is some sort of kind of basic kind of head-up component, just a graphic. So I'm going to very quickly, I'm going to make a circle. It's got 32 verts, I think, by default, so let's leave it at that. We're going to extrude and escape and press S for scale. And I'll extrude it again, scale it in, and extrude it again, and scale it in. Okay, now I am going to delete most of this. So I'll do that, and then I'm going to take this object here and just by eye place it up here. Take that and extrude it on X, and maybe we'll rotate it a little bit, and whoops, then we'll scale it on Y. We'll go Shift D, G, X, and then E, X, Shift D, G, X, and then E, X. So we'll probably put our health bar in one of these, and the countdown timer in one, and then the rest of this is just aesthetics. So we'll take it all, we'll add a mirror modifier to it to make it more, or not a mirror modifier, a subdivision surface modifier, and we will just add some loop cuts to take the ugly edge off it. And the subdivision surface modifier just makes the corners, makes the whole thing a bit more rounded and slightly more organic looking, but probably unnecessary for what we're doing, but it doesn't matter. I've added it now. So I'm just going to color it in now, so I'll go to rendered mode. To export or render from Blender with a transparent background, we need to go to film and then turn this little button on here transparent, and that will make everything see-through, which is what we want. Otherwise we'll end up with a default kind of gray background. So there's a material in Blender, so we'll use this. We'll call it blue, and we'll make it blue. There we go. And we're going to add 2 new materials in here, and the first one we'll make black. And then the next one, we'll make a new material, we'll call it glow, and we'll change it from being a principal shader to being an emission shader. We'll make it blue and increase that up a little bit. Okay, so then we just need to apply them. So I'm going to select that loop and that loop, that and that, and that was meant to be black, so we'll assign that. Excuse me, and then we will take that and that and that and assign that there. Now, so that's our basic sort of setup there. So you can argue whether that's completely ugly or distracting, or the colors are not a match. So let's look at my complementary colors here. Let's bring that over there. Okay, and then like this one here, we'll take away the specularity, and we will, what will we do? We will cursor to selected, and we will make that a little bit smaller, that black line. Ooh, and that one. We'll try and do the same here. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna have to. Okay. All right. So I don't know if that's beautiful, but we'll render it out anyway. It's only for demonstration purposes. So I'm gonna press F12. That gives me a render, and I'm gonna go save as. And where am I going to save this? This is in my desktop. Biffy, 2D sprite game, assets and sprites. We'll call it head up display, and we'll save that. And it's a PNG with an alpha channel, and that's the alpha channel is important. So there's our game, and hopefully if I open up my sprites folder, there's the image we've just made. So I'm going to make a canvas now here, a UI canvas, and on that canvas I'm going to make, actually before I do anything with it, I'm going to make I'm going to scale it with the screen size, and then I'm going to put in my resolution, which is 1920 by 1080. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create an image on our UI canvas, and we're going to call this, first of all, let's rename our canvas. We'll call it HUD head up display, and we'll call this head up display BG background, and we're going to take our image and drag it in there. So that's us so far. Now where is my head up display? There it is there. Now, our problem with our background image is it's not the right size, so let's make it the right size. So 1920 by 1080. Okay, and now it is as it should be. Now we want to make a health bar, so let's go make another image. Now we're going to use sort of the same technology that we used down here with our health bar. If we can open up this here, we took our health bar, that transform.local.scale, and we made it into, and we changed its health here. When its health declined, it went -1 when it took damage, so we'll have something similar on our character, and then we'll make this image smaller by moving it down vector-wise on the x-axis. So let's just create another on our head-up display here. Let's create a another image. So let's make an image, and again we will position that. We're going to do this by eye. So let's do this here, and it's too high, so we'll, so it's kind of the right length, but it's too high, so we'll bring this down here. Now I'm sure there's a far more aesthetically pleasing way to do this, but I can take my green health bar here and just drag it into my sprite, and it'll go green. So that can be my health, and so as my character health goes down, we can make that go down, and we can, if we wanted to, we can make that kind of bridge over here. Maybe what we need to do is go back in here, join these together, and go image edge loop and save that. So file, what was it in render? So F12 and render it. And go image, save as, head up display. Okay, and then over here we'll take the, oh, it's auto updated. Okay, so that's going to be our head up display. Now you can see it's actually quite, the green on the yellow is awful. So what we do, oh, what's a good color opposite green? So let's take this glow here, and what's opposite green? This sort of color here. Okay, and we'll save that. So F12, image, save as, head up display. So this is on my second monitor, and that's done. And then we go back in here. There we go. So that's better. Okay, so not perfect, but better. So let's have a look at how we get that image then. So we'll call this P health, so for player health. So if I scale this, I get the same sort of phenomenon I got with the health bar. So I need to go change the anchor point here for my my image, so that when I scale here on X, that it reduces, goes to the left. Okay, so, and we do that by changing this anchor point here, which is very similar to how we changed this here. We changed it using the sprite, where we did over here. We edited the sprite. So this is kind of the same thing, but just using the rect transform for the image. Now, just to point out to you that, you know, if I wanted, like, the order and layer here is to do with the order they are in this setup here. Okay, so now let's set it up so when the character hits, bumps into, physically collides with the non-player character, that the health goes down. So we'll need a script on the health bar, which is very similar to the one on the non-player character health bar, and then we'll need a collision script on the character. So let's do that. So let's have a look at some of our scripts here and see if we can reuse some material. So we will go to so this is the follow, cam control, door open. Oh yeah, so this is it here. So it's in our character control. So we're going to create a new script. And actually, no, we don't need to create a new script. We'll just amend, I'll delete that now. We'll just amend the player character script and put it all in there. So let's open that up. So there it is there. And we can steal bits from here. So we have over here a health bar game object. Now we may have to change that to be an image, but we'll worry about that in a minute. So we'll copy that and come over here and give ourselves a health bar. And obviously I can have the same variable in both because they're separate scripts. Then I have a health of 1. So let's bring that over here. These are nice and simple, and that's again we express the green line is expressed as a value from 0 to 1. I have when I take damage, I minus 1 off my health. So I'm going to do that in a slightly different way. So if we look in the player control script here, I've already got collision. So I'm going to duplicate this here, this if statement, and so I'm going to say if collision game object, and we'll call this enemy. Now we're going to have to create a tag called enemy. So we'll go to our non-player character here. Maybe if my machine will load it up, non-player character, and it's got the tag enemy with a small e. So let's go back and amend that. So if I've got the tag enemy, then I don't want these things here to change. what I want is I want this variable here to be reduced just like that there. So let's copy and paste that in. So now that variable is going to be reduced. And then over here what we have is in update, we have our game object health bar that gets smaller as this health value gets smaller. So let's go to player control and go to find void update. And we'll just put that in right at the top. And then we've got this, if health is below 0, then destroy game object. So we don't want to do that with our character, but what we do want to do is change level. So if health is smaller than 0, what we want to do is go to, say, a screen that says game over. So let's have a look up here for a second. We haven't loaded in this thing here, so Unity scene management, so we'll copy that in to our player script. We also haven't put in we may end up using the UI elements, so we'll come back to that in a minute. And then we want to do this here, so load scene. So if health is below 0, load scene. And then what scene do we want to load? Well, what scenes have we got? So we've got cutscene. So let's go to the cutscene for now. We can obviously load in. We'd need to make a new scene. Okay, so cutscene. So I'm going to save that and go back into Unity and see if we get a compile error. And go to our player where our script is, and we see we've got this extra game variable, so we can put that in there, and we can press play. We can see if we can bump into this non-player character. Okay, so we have, and you can see our health has diminished. And it hit us again, and it's diminished again. Now there are some kind of nuances to this that we may have to play with, which are things like, is it possible for us to have multiple collisions? Like if I'm walking forward, can I, will I hit him 3 or 4 times in a row, and therefore lose lots of health really quickly? So there's, when you're play testing, you'll come across all sorts of little small things that you may have to tweak or change. So let's see if we can get all the way to changing level. So if we're minusing 0.1 each time, which is what we've put in, then we have to be hit 10 times by the character. So maybe we shouldn't have, as our initial test, put in that as our... And then it says we haven't loaded the scene. So it tried to load the scene, but the scenes aren't loaded into the build. So build settings. So we've only level 1 here. We would have to put cutscene in there for it to be able to change scene. Well, that's a good sign. It means that all of the code that we've put in and the setup is correct. Okay, so let's just save that, and now we're going to add in a timer. Okay, so one of the things you will almost always need at some point in when you're making a game is putting in some sort of countdown timer. So let's do that. So on my head-up display here, I'm going to add, now I can add a whole bunch of stuff. I'm just going to add some text, and I'm going to call this text timer. And let's have a look at where this text is. You can see it's on the foot of the character here. So I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to reposition this. Now, we can load in fonts and all sorts of things here if we really want to, but I'm more interested in getting it to work. So if the text, like the font size, is bigger than the box that it's in, it'll actually disappear. So I'm going to make this a bit longer. so I'm going to make it a bit taller. And then here I'm just going to write in time. Now that's not actually what we're going to see, because we're going to replace the text in that. So here's our timer. So let's create a script to control that. So there's our script, and we'll call this timer, and we'll put in L1 because it's level 1 timer. Now so this is going to work as a UI element. So when I open this up here, the first thing I need to do is say using Unity Engine .ui. So that allows us to use things like text. So I want to add in a couple of variables. So the first variable I want is the actual how much time there is left in the game. So what am I typing here? So public, and we're going to put in an integer because we don't want we could put in fractions, but we don't need that. And we'll call this time left. That's how much, and we'll say it's 60. So that's we have 1 minute, so we have 60 seconds. And then we want our actual text itself. So we'll put in it's a text object. Now we wouldn't be able to use that if we hadn't loaded in the Unity Engine.ui, and we'll call this count. Okay, so there are 2 variables. That's all we really need. In void start, we're going to start a coroutine. So we're going to use a very similar process that we've used here. So we started a coroutine called cutscene. So let's do that. Well, let's not call it cutscene. Let's call it countdown. Okay, because that's what we're going to do. And then we are going to countdown. So let's run that as a function. So we're going to say enumerator, and it's going to be called countdown. With a capital D. Okay. So and that needs to be in brackets, I think. Yeah, I think we can do it that way. Hang on. So yeah, so we're got to here, so countdown, and although that's giving me an error, it's not wrong at all. So we go back here and we have a look at this. This is yield return wait for seconds 8. So let's copy that and then go back to our timer, and we will paste that in. And you can see this has disappeared, which is a bit odd, but anyway. And we're going to wait for seconds 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to -1 off our excuse me, -1 off our health, which are our count. Sorry, time left. So I'm going to say time left minus, which is basically -1. And then update down here, what we want to say is we want to say that our countdown text is correct. So we're going to say count dot text, which is small t for text. And then what we want to put in there, well, we need to kind of state what we want to put in. So we want to put in the value time left, or that's what we want to put in. So we'll say time, colon, so you put this in, and then we'll leave a space, and then we'll say plus, and then the variable up above, so time left. So that's what we want to put in there. That's what we want to display in the text field. Okay, so we're going to come back to this in a second. I'm going to add one more small but important detail in. So we're just going to have a look at this working, or it's kind of limited working at the moment. So I've added the script onto the text field, and then we need to add the text field into the script, and this will just count from 60 to 59. So I'll just do it once. So we've got our time here, and then after 1 second it was 59. It doesn't go to 58 because what we've done is we've just said, after you've started, so when the script has started, run this here. So we've one small thing to add in that's going to make the script keep doing this. So what we need to do is add in a really simple statement, which is just basically saying while it's true. So while true. Okay. Oops, that's sorry. So while true, do these things. So so that will get it to run this while this remains basically in place. So we will save that, and now when we press play, we should get a different result. So it's going to count down. Now if we wanted to do something at the end, we can simply in update say if time is less than 0, then do something like change level. Or so we can see here we've got our clock timing or walking down, and we've got our health bar that is also functional, and that's all I really wanted to do here. So I mean, you can muck around with this all you want aesthetically. You can change your font, like just drop a font into the assets folder and then drop it in here. Just remember, so you go import new asset, and I think I can't do this actually. Windows, I think even though I'm the administrator, yeah, so you get that error. So you have to bizarrely go see Windows fonts, and in that way, and then drag and drop a font in. So if I pick, I don't know, something weird and wonderful, let's say this one here, prefix. So I drag that font in here, I go back to my text, I can put that in there, and now I've got a different font, and when I press play, that's the font that it'll use in the game. Okay, so that's all I wanted to sort of do in this short tutorial. So we've got our player who will lose, have a health bar that will diminish when it has collision with objects that are tagged enemy. That could be a bullet, it could be an obstacle in the game, a pit of fire, or whatever you come up with in your games. And then we've got a timer that counts down, and then there's a consequence to the timer reaching a certain value as stipulated by you. So we'll leave it there for now.